All right, welcome back to The Perspective, everybody, here on WWSU 106.9. I am your host, Parker Testa. Here we bring in head coach of the Raider gang, the Wright State Raider baseball team, Alex Sogard. Coach, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, so you opened the year this past weekend against Vanderbilt and Alabama. Both are top teams in the country in the SEC. How does opening the year against kind of tough non-conference opponents help prepare your team for Horizon League play?
Yeah, I think it's important to be tested early. We've always liked a challenging schedule with non-conference play, and I think it prepares us for conference play, and also at the end of the year, getting a chance to play in some of those environments against those ranked teams. It helps us for our goal to play in the postseason, and so it also we're able to figure out quickly what our weaknesses are and our strengths are. So going into conference play, we know exactly what we're working with.
How do you feel about your team going into the year?
I feel really, really good. It's a good group. We returned basically our whole team from last year after the season got canceled. So we have a lot of veteran guys. Some core guys, and we have some young guys. Some of them got their feet wet last year in that short year, but they're still young. They still haven't played a conference game yet. But I think coming back a second year, there's a little more confidence with some of those guys, and you see it just the way they work day in and day out. But yeah, I feel really good. I think we have a chance to have a really good pitching staff, which at the end of the day is what you need to make a run.
Your team played just 15 games last season. You guys had just beaten Miami at home, and then you get the call that the season's going to be canceled. How do you tell your team that news? I mean, I'm sure it was heartbreaking, but is there anything you guys learned from that after being off for so long?
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing since that happened, just reminding the guys like having perspective. And just being fortunate to play. And we've seen that it could get taken away from you like that. It was hard. It's something that I'm a younger head coach. And so a lot of times I'm going through something. There's some people I'll reach out to. And in this case, no one had the experience with this.
Right.
It just happened so quick. I think the NBA canceled the night before. And there was some talk like, hey, our series may get suspended because we were starting Horizon League play that weekend. We were practicing on Thursday at our stadium, and there was these talks like, hey, our season could get suspended or canceled. And it was kind of a surreal feeling. No one believed it. And then I got a call in the middle of practice to notify me, hey, your season's suspended at least 3 weeks, and could end up getting canceled. So I had to call the guys in, and it was probably one of the hardest things I've had to do as a coach and say, hey, listen, it's not officially canceled, but, we're suspended 3 weeks. And, there was a lot of frustration and anger and emotion just because these guys have been working so hard. Obviously the seniors, they didn't know. It was like, am I ever going to be able to put on a uniform again? So it was a hard time. But I think, guys – coming back this year, being able to play Monday for the first time, everybody's so excited because they're not taking it for granted anymore, after going through what we all went through last year.
Yeah. 4 of your assistant coaches or staff members are former Raiders. Does having the familiarity with the program help not only you, but your staff but also your players?
I think it does. Absolutely. I think there's been a lot of transition here in the last 6-7 years with the coaching staff, and it's different here. And I think you don't know unless you've been in the program, and our players know it better than anyone. And so I think anytime you have an opportunity to bring back former players, I really believe the continuity of the program is important. And so anytime you got a chance to bring back former players and guys that had a lot of success, we have Chase Sloan's one of our assistants, one of the best shortstops defensively we've had here. Zach Weatherford won the Gold Glove in center field his senior year, which is the best Division I center fielder in the entire country. And then Derek Hendrickson was our closer for us for a few years, one of the best we've ever had. And then, we have Jason Foster as well that helps with the pitching. So to have 4 former guys, I mean, it really is a luxury to have that many former players on your staff. And I think our current players understand that, these guys have been in their shoes. They understand what it takes to be on a championship team and to have success at this level. So I think the respect there and knowing they've been in their shoes helps a lot.
You're a former professional baseball player. Is there anything that you take from your playing days? Obviously, you were a pitcher, so obviously you would relate more to pitchers than you would position players. But is there anything that you kind of use from your playing days and implement it into how you lead or how you coach?
Yeah, I mean, I think the longer you play, the more you realize how hard this game really is. And that's something as I coach, I don't want to forget about that. I think sometimes you get older coaches, they forget about how hard this game is. And it's tough, man. Even the best are going to fail more than they succeed. So I think my playing experience helps, again, or I'm able to relate with the guys a lot. I've been through the ups and downs of the game. And I'm coming from a place where a lot of these guys want to go. And so we're able to have those conversations of how it's not meant for everyone and it takes a lot of work. And even if you work, your odds are slim, right? But just to continue, as long as you have a jersey on, in my mind, you have an opportunity.
You've been here at Wright State for you're going into your 3rd year at the helm. You've been here 5 years overall. I know this is a tough question, but is there like a favorite moment or a favorite game you look back on and say like, wow, that was a lot of fun, or that was
Oh man, that is a tough one. So there were some big ones. My first weekend as the pitching coach here, we opened the series at Clemson. And my wife's from North Carolina. Her family grew up Clemson fans. So it was kind of it was cool how that worked out. And then we end up beating Clemson 2 out of 3, and our pitching staff did great. So that was probably a cool first one for me. Winning the Horizon League championship against UIC was a back and forth game. Was a crazy one. Then going to the Stanford Regional was another one. And then we've had some big wins. My first win as a head coach was against Ole Miss opening weekend in 2019. Playing against Indiana, against Coach Mercer, who was here, and beating them was another fun one. And beating Louisville last year, beating Tennessee 2 out of 3 last year. So those are kind of the big ones. I think it's hard to pinpoint one. But honestly, I was talking to some of our other coaches the other day, just seeing some of our guys who are now seniors and how much more confidence they have and how mature they are now as opposed to when they came in as freshmen, I think is a pretty rewarding thing as well.
You mentioned Coach Mercer. He obviously got the job at IU, and then you got the job here. Is there anything that you learned from him that you kind of that you sort of use now? Is there anything that you take away from former coaches that you've had personally?
Yeah, I think a lot of, when I was a player, I knew I wanted to get into coaching, and I was very fortunate. I played for some really good coaches, Coach Casey at Oregon State, and Coach Avent, who's still at NC State, and then a number of really good coaches in professional baseball. I was very fortunate to work for Coach Mercer. I learned a ton from him, and forever grateful for him because he took a chance on me, coming. I was still playing pro ball. I just retired, hadn't coached, and he hired me as a pitching coach. And so I thought he was a little crazy at the time for doing that, but it worked out. But yeah, I loved working for him. He's a real smart baseball mind. He's an offensive mind. And so we would always pick each other's brains because I'm more of a pitching mind. So we'd go back and forth. But I just learned kind of the ways of the land a little bit, in college baseball and what it takes to have success. So very fortunate to get to work for him.
Going into this year, there's so many unknowns. You could get a player with COVID. How is there Is there a process that you guys kind of go through if you do have a positive test?
Yeah, so it's a pretty extensive process. Obviously we get tested before every series we play. Our whole travel party will get tested tomorrow morning before we leave, and make sure we get the results before we depart. We will do contact tracing, and so every day we have designated groups, so we know, anytime guys have been around each other. I think that's a hard thing to like pin down, but we try to do our best. But yeah, if someone tests positive, basically you're out for a few weeks. So it does add some different things we haven't experienced before. In the past with baseball, injuries happen, right? You hate that they happen, but they're going to happen. And so you may lose a guy here or there. Whereas this year, that could still happen, but then you add in COVID, right? If a guy tests positive, obviously, first off, you hope that they're healthy, but then you lose them for a few weeks, and you may lose all his roommates too, right? So you could, it'll be interesting. I know some series last weekend was opening weekend. There were a number of series that got canceled because of COVID, and I think that's something, unfortunately, you're going to see, throughout the year. Hopefully it doesn't happen much, but it's just kind of part of it.
Well, Coach, I can't thank you enough for coming on here and chatting with me for a few minutes. Good luck in Tuscaloosa, and good luck the rest of the way this season.
Awesome. Thank you, Parker. I appreciate it. Have a good one.